Welcome back, folks and friends. Connecting Dots here, aka Silver Gold Man. Not sure if you caught my video here, uploaded 14 hours ago, I should say. But basically it was my, well, I'm inviting French people to come join me on my Google Hangout. And no, I won't be speaking French in my Google Hangouts. It was just a one-time deal, trying to invite other Canadians or anyone else that lives around the world that wants to find out the truth here. So basically in that video, and I'll touch on that in a second because I'll continue with it, but in the video I talked about how Beautiful Girl by Dana on Saturday, May 29th, that was last night, had uploaded a video on a Google Hangout actually, and it was called Fukushima Free-for-all Troll Night, Bring Your Best Nuclear Shots. Now unfortunately I wasn't able to get in there because if you watch my video from 2 days ago, I mentioned how it was my first time ever going into one of his Google Hangouts and trying to leave a comment. And guess what, folks? I found out the same thing as many of you have. I ended up getting banned, not once but twice. So he banned Silver Gold Man. I tried again with Connecting Dots 3. They banned me immediately. I didn't even bother going back with Connecting Dots 2. I tried though, but he closed up shop immediately. So instead, he came back out here inviting us out, but well, we're banned. I'm banned too. So we can't speak to them. This is the big thing here. The debate is not on. He's an absolute lying fraud artist. And I'm going to begin to the very beginning of this fraud because we're all introduced who is backing this up. And it was also his way out of it because he lets people know that it wasn't really him. So if you don't remember this video, this is where he came out and said that the Pacific Ocean was dead. It was dead from what? Yes, from the Fukushima radiation. I'm not making up this bullshit, okay? This is Dana's own words. So let's listen up here in case you missed this.
My name is Dana Durnford. This is Terry Daigneault. Terry went down on the beaches and took all the photos, and he's also funded the computers, the Wirecast, and many other things. $600 of the donation is what started this all off, and from you guys at the Nuclear Proctologists. And so we rented a boat, and we'll jump on that, and we went up to the very farthest one, which is Desolation Sound, and we covered 200 kilometers, and we caught 9 days low tides, and each day was a lower tide than the day before because of the supermoon that we have today, right? And so the last day was yesterday. We covered a mass amount of coastline. We rented a Zodiac and covered around 40 kilometers of Desolation Sound area in a 3-hour ride. At low tide we see no life whatsoever.
Okay, so that's where it all began. You get to find out that Dana has let himself off the hook because he actually says that this guy here, Terry Daigneault, c'est français, Terry Daigneault, actually put the money up front and took the pictures and gave the pictures to Dana, and Dana said the Pacific Ocean is dead. We also found out back then that Dana, well, we know now that he's lying. He was saying back then he couldn't walk, he was crippled, stuck in a wheelchair, nothing but a bunch of lies. He's been out on the Pacific Ocean by himself in the middle of winter in a little dinghy, 20-foot long dinghy in the middle of winter. So he's an absolute liar. And what's best here, he says that he covered 200 kilometers of the Sunshine Coast, but in reality they only rented a boat for 3 hours and did roughly 40 kilometers of beach. If you believe that in 3 hours, I don't think so. So instead we found out later on that all they did, they went to a couple of provincial parks and Terry took some pictures here and there, and Dana came back out telling everyone everything was dead, and that was the beginning of the fraud, okay? That's where it all began. And now more recently they've jumped on here and they continue on telling you that all the whales are dying because of the Fukushima. Unbelievable, the bullshit, folks. So I'll leave a link down below if you want to go follow up on these stories. That's why people like my videos, because I don't just talk bullshit. I actually provide the links and the stories so you folks can follow them along and see if I'm lying. So basically, if I started in 2014, I was talking about how the Pacific Ocean was actually doing a bounce back because of, you folks remember what that was? I was saying it was all because of the what? Whale poop. Do you folks remember that? Yeah, the whales are the ecosystem engineers. So because I reported that the whale population was increasing, unlike what they're saying, including the orca population, and I'll show that again. I got the links for that one. It was creating more poop, and basically the ocean is getting healthier. I mentioned how people that have been diving on the west coast had never seen the diversity in sea life as they did last year. One lady had been there for 17 years, the same location, never seen so many different types of fish. And I reported how the The salmon runs, record runs last year. Largest runs they'd seen in decades is what they said, the fishermen. You may recall I even interviewed a gentleman live on the phone. He said the same thing, record population. So these people want to promote the fear, and you may have heard here how we have these dead whales washing up. So that story's from May 29, 2015, and I'll leave it down below so you folks can read it here, folks. I want you to know that I'm not full of BS, but basically it talks about the whales that have been washing up, and I'm not going to read the entire thing. What I want to get into is where they've been washing up, and this is really important, that one specific area along the Bay Area, folks, okay? This is important. So I'm not going to read the entire thing, as I said before. I'm going to get into the best of it, but he goes on to say that the death toll in many ways is a normal part of the annual gray whale migration from Mexico up to Alaska, okay? Which concludes this month. So this is a normal part. This happens a lot, specifically at this time of the year, okay? He says it's odd that we're having a cluster, but he goes on to say that the last time we had such a large increase in strandings and deaths was in the year 2000, in 1990 and 2000, where there was 40 dead gray whales that were found on the beaches in the Bay Area. Okay? Very important here that you remember that there's booms and busts in the ocean, and that's what you're going to learn from this video as they keep repeating that same thing, booms and busts, okay? So basically another thing they talk about is that the current death throng is much smaller, with only 6 of the dead gray whales, and they said that some of them, these 6 were so badly decomposed they couldn't even determine what the cause of the death was. Now oddly enough, you've watched my video here about 2 weeks ago, I was talking about the whales that died in Vancouver, and they were actually, one of them came in on the the front bow of a boat, the bulging bow on the bottom, the underwater bulb, I don't know if you know it, but basically that one type of boat. It caught the whale, and the other whales I shared in the story, they had the same thing. They had markings of being hit by boats. Now this is interesting because they talk about that also, the cause of the deaths. And I'm not going to go over the entire story. As I said, it's linked down below. You can hit the space bar and you can read anything you want. But I'm going to get into where I think it's all very important here. So it goes on to say that the 2 other of these mammals, apart from being hit by a ship, the other ones were missing limbs. I talked about how the other one was missing a head, and they said they were probably attacked by orcas or got entangled in fishing gear. Now it goes on to say that right here, okay folks, right there, it says the killer whales are a likely culprit in some of the deaths. The orcas patrol Monterey Bay and ambush mothers and calves as the Leviathan's attempt to cross a deep water canyon there. The violent drama involving fleeing whales and pursuing orcas is an annual extravaganza of death that the scientists say have been growing in intensity as the number of whales and orcas increase. I'm not making this up. You're reading it right there, folks. What can I say? They want to tell you everything's dying. It's booms and busts on the ocean, and I had to go pull out this other story just so you know that I'm not full of poo-poo, and this one's here from the year 2009, okay? Just so you know. I went and pulled out another one here. Again, it's about the death, what's happening here on the West Coast, and oddly enough, it gets into whale poop, and I'm not going to read that entire thing, but basically it talks about how they were actually starting to eat krill instead of the anchovies and fish. Now, if you don't know what krill is, basically it looks like a minuscule little shrimp, basically. I remember the first time I came across a cloud of these in the ocean, the krill, I was like, wow, what is that? A pink cloud, unbelievable. And the anchovies, well, many of you know what that's all about. So I'll get back to the story here, but basically it's saying that, some of the whales are doing well, other than not, and you go read the entire story, okay? So it talks about how some marine life was, they were failing, they were dying, and other ones are doing well. And what I want to talk about is the fact that it goes on to say here that 6 to 8 times the normal number of dead cormorants and sea lions were found in the Bay Area beaches in May, June, and July. Okay? The death toll in each case involves birds and marine mammals that prey on anchovies and other fish. The reason I'm bringing this up, again, because this is 2009. Okay, folks? Way before Fukushima. Now, the next story I'm going to get into is the anchovies, because this is a more recent one, and this is in January 2015, as you can see right there. And it talks about how Peru is having a hard time economically, and how there's a problem with the anchovies. And that's, well, according to this pie chart, it says that 67% of the world's anchovies are fished in the Pacific Southeast, giving Peru a 57% share of the world's total catch. So yeah, they're suffering because the anchovies are down. But here's a good thing here, folks. The booms and busts are also present in the anchovies and the sardines. And this story here, as you can see, from May 27, 2015. And I'm sharing this story here because I have a friend of mine that works in one of these fish farms, and he spoke about this a couple of years ago. And well, I kind of see how it ties in now. So basically, the story goes on to say, forage fish have natural boom and bust cycles, but the sardines off the coast of California have been steadily decreasing in number. They are a critical part of the ocean food web, and their absence is speculated to be the reason for hundreds of sea lion pups that have been washing up on California's shores dead and dehydrated. Brown pelican populations in California are also suffering from their absence. It can't be said with certainty that sardines are being overfished. Sardines, like other forage fish, have a natural boom-bust cycle and are sensitive to climate changes and weather patterns. But of course, fishing during a steep population decline, like the U.S. West Coast has done since the year 2007, certainly doesn't help. These schools also pass along the coast of Mexico and Canada, and there is not an international agreement on their management, so even if we don't overfish them in the U.S., other countries may. Right now, the U.S. West Coast sardine population is in peril, but not because of people eating them, but because they don't. West Coast sardines have not been landing on our plates, but rather they are primarily being fed to larger fish as bait through the commercial fishing industry and on fish farms. Tuna farms in Baja and Australia have proliferated over the past 10 years, and it takes an astonishing 20 pounds of sardines to produce 1 pound of tuna. According to Langfest Storage Fish Tanks Force, 90% of fish forage are used for agriculture, fish farms, and nutritional supplements. So here's the solution, the guy says. Stop eating fish salmon and ranch tuna, and which are fed the fish meal, which is made from forage fish, and start eating the real fish. So I don't know what to say. This is an ongoing problem, and you're not getting the full story from most of the people out here on YouTube. You're going to have to come out to Connecting Dots 2 and Silver Gold Man to find out what's really going on. And I'm going to end the video here with, again, this is a recent story from April 2015, and it talks about the shutdown here of the sardines. Again, people are going to jump on the Fukushima kooky heads, and I'm going to leave a link, or I should say, I'm going to just show a little part of this story here where they talk about the population swings. You can hit the space bar and read it if you want. And it also talks about the starving sea lions and birds since 2013, but it also goes on to say that the sea lions and seabirds have been starving since 2013, but the pelicans have been since the year 2010, and everyone knew something was going on because there wasn't enough food to eat for these predators. So it's been an ongoing problem. Don't believe the bullshit. A lot of people misrepresent the facts here on YouTube. This is an ongoing problem. Okay, folks? Now, I'm going to finish off this video because somebody said, should we trust these people? Global research? Absolutely not. They tried to join me in their team. They wanted me to put up posters here in Victoria. I'm like, are you crazy? You guys should have me as your main researcher, and they don't. Do you know why? Because this is the bullshit that they propagate. As you can see there, of course, this happens thanks to the burning of fossil fuels. So this is the bullshit that you have on YouTube. Global research is connected with Alex Jones, and Alex Jones is telling you that the CO2 levels rising has nothing to do with our fossil fuel burning. And I'm saying it has something to do with it, but very little. But definitely fossil fuels are not the reasons why the weather is changing. So if these people want to play stupid and tell you people it's the fossil fuel bullshit, you know right away they are corrupt. Stay away from them. I do not believe in global research. They're based out of Montreal. Their fear-mongering facts suck, and they won't tell you the truth. What can I say? Stay away. Come join me on Google Hangouts and you'll know the truth, because I'm about to share with you the truth of free energy. Take care, folks. Have a good weekend.